Good afternoon, traders. This is Heartpumper coming to you from theclosingprint.com. We'll get started in just a few minutes. I got some people from our chat room that are getting on. So we'll be doing a quick charting session. I'm going to go over how I use investors.com stock screener as an alternative to MarketSmith, even though MarketSmith is great software. And we'll take some ticker names that we're looking at if anybody wants to post in the chat, and then we'll finish up maybe with some quick risk management, and then we'll be finished probably about 30-45 minutes here. Not very long. As I go through my watch list, I was on vacation last week, so had our portfolio that we just kind of let go for the week, and then haven't really done any homework yet. So basically I'm just going to kind of show you how I do it real quick, and then we can look at our portfolio names that we swing traded this past week and kind of some updates on those. Welcome, traders. A few more people are streaming in here. We'll go ahead and let these people come in, and then we'll get started. Feel free to use the YouTube chat if you want to post some stocks for me to look at. I have some people posted in our closingprint.com chat room also, a few of the tickers. So. Beautiful day here in East Tennessee. Fall's finally here, so great weather. Sorry, my kids are in the background playing some games, so if you hear a little background noise. But all right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, this is Heartpumper coming to you from theclosingprint.com on 10/17 Sunday afternoon. I'm going to go through how I use investors.com stock screener to look for some setups, and then we'll look at our portfolio and then probably finish up. So again, if anybody has any tickers they want to look at, just throw them in the YouTube chat or send me a message. So first of all, I've got quite a few questions, at least from some members in our chat room. If there's an alternative to use for MarketSmith. MarketSmith is great, a great tool. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you. To search for CanSlim candidates. Basically, it's just a less version of their institutional Wanda software that they use for institutions. and it's excellent software that gives you tons of data with earnings and institutional ownership, and there's just lots of things you can do with it. Great community that produces nice screeners that everybody shares. I hear a lot of people, new traders starting out, about the price. I think it's anywhere from $140 to $180 a month. So people ask me how they can kind of get the same ideas, not with all the data, but maybe with a little bit more work. So that's what I'm going to show you here. So if you sign up for investors.com, the IBD digital version, it's about, I think, $20 a month. You can get another rate that's a little cheaper. But you can use their stock screener. Okay, they've actually revamped this within the past year. It's an excellent tool. It has a lot of the same stuff that MarketSmith has on it. You just have to do a little bit more work. One thing I do like about this stock screener is they have all the stock lists from IBD, and pretty much anything that I trade will be from one of these stock lists, basically because these are curated stock lists that IBD uses, their proprietary rating system that will give you the best of the best. It saves me a lot of time only just having to go through these lists and flip through the charts. Like if I've been on vacation, I'll come back and basically my go-to screen will be the weekly review here. Basically this tells you that it has to have an EPS and RS rating of 85 or higher, so that'll filter out a lot of junk and give you the best of the best. And then the IBD 50 list is my go-to list. These are the most traded kind of institutional stocks that has the best growth and earnings at the time, and that's what I look for. The great thing about what they do here is you can export these lists. So I just click export. This exports this to Excel. I'll show you how it looks. It gives you a great nice Excel list. This is how it looks, and actually it gives you all of the columns that you would see in MarketSmith. Okay, so you can actually go by funds, you can go by volume. But obviously you'd have to do a little bit more work. You could copy and paste this and actually use a filter type thing through Excel. But what I do is I'll just copy these here. I'll click copy, and then I paste them into whatever charting software you want. So I'm using stockcharts.com just because it's cheap and it's easy for new traders, but you would just do a new list and copy and paste the tickers. And I'll go ahead and show you kind of what that looks like. So I have all these IBD lists that I've done. I've go ahead and updated mine for today. And this is the IBD 50 plus a few. So basically what I do is each week I will check to see what has been added to the IBD 50, what has been removed to the IBD 50, and I will keep this list up to date. Now what I do like to do is I'll keep a few of the names on, even if they fall off. I'll keep those on for another week or so, and then if they go below the 50-day or get close to the 200-day 10-week or 40-week moving average, I'll go ahead and remove those. But what's nice is a lot of these stocks, a lot of these growth stocks that might drop off the IBD 50 is they'll pull back, 15, 20%, maybe have just an average earnings, so they'll drop off the IBD 50 list, but they still may be great growth stocks that are just putting in a longer type base. So then we'll go ahead and look at those. So basically what I'm trying to look for on this what I call kind of first pass, which if you look and listen to Greg Morton, he does a weekly IBD video, and he also does a monthly IBD meetup at the Greenville Stockyard. But he kind of does what he calls a first pass. Basically, you go through a first pass of some bigger list and you jot down some names, and then you kind of do a second pass where you dive in a little deeper. Maybe you look at the earnings, maybe look at the institutional ownership, and then that'll kind of give you a narrowed watch list. So what I'll do is my first pass, basically I'm just going to go through the IBD 50, and I'll look to see if we're above the 10, if minimum we have to be above the 21 day for me to look at it. Or I should say above the 50 day, but I want to see the 10, 21, 50, and 200 all in the proper order, which means they're uptrending. And then I want to look at volume and kind of see how the price action is. And then I'll just go through all those. So you can see Affirm. Obviously, this is one that we've had in our portfolio. The 10, 21, 50, 200 is not here yet because it's a newer IPO, so it'll be coming in But the 10, 21, 50 are all in the proper order, uptrending, stacked if you want to call it. Had huge volume on this day here. So if you're not in this at the moment, if you didn't take this kind of flag pullback to the 21-day breakout, then basically you'd be looking for a pullback to the 10-day to get involved in some type of kind of flag base that would be available for a good risk reward entry on lower volume. Okay, so then I'll just click through. So this is one ALGN that's obviously fallen off probably the IBD 50 because this big gap down under the 200-day. So that would be one that I would prune from my list. But I may want to leave it on just another week. Again, it's below the 200-day. It wouldn't be something I would trade, but you know, a large volume by price shelf here and just maybe a large base that is trying to rebuild. So I might leave this back on, you know, just for a couple days. If it goes back above the 200, then it's not something that's would be on my final watch list to trade, but that would be, you know, if you separate watch lists, you can have your, you know, ready to go list, you could have your waiting to set up list, and then maybe, you know, a longer term list that, hey, it was a good growth stock, but it's fallen off and I just want to leave it on a longer term list that maybe I review every weekend or every couple weeks just to see if there's anything popping up that's starting to set up. So AMD obviously had this nice base kind of flag right here and broke out on good volume here. So this was a great entry here. We have this in our longer term portfolio, but not in our short term swing portfolio. So now if you're looking for a setup here, you got to look for this volume by price here in this 114, and you'd be looking for a pullback to the 1021 as they cross above the 50-day and kind of set up maybe for a possible new uptrend. And this could just be building a much larger base here, sort of kind of looking like a cup here, so you could flag out here, but then you'd get all your moving averages stacked properly, 10, 21, 50, and then that would provide a good risk reward entry. So that would be not one that I would put on my list at the moment, just maybe looking for a pullback setup here. So AutoNation, not really liking this candle here with the kind of the extension a little bit higher. App, this is a newer IPO, been on a lot of people's radar. Good volume here, nice gap up, kind of forming this huge cup base. If you want to look at that, you could look at the weekly chart and kind of get a better idea. It did move above the proper pivot, which was probably around in here. So a pullback pivot retest would be a good risk reward area as the 10 and 21 and the 50 become in the proper order and uptrending. So we'd want to look for a pullback there. Apps, this has been a great mover here since it got back above the 200-day and respected it and then moved higher. So again, as you can see, most of these growth stocks after the 7 to 10-day run, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days here. So we're in the 7 to 10-day window on a kind of a wave of move up on the growth stock. So I'd be looking for consolidation and pullbacks at least to the 10-day. As we get farther extended from the 10-day, then my confidence becomes a little bit less about how much further this can push. And you'll see a lot of the growth stocks on Friday kind of had this same look, this same candle that, you know, could not push higher with price. So that tells me probably some rest is what we're going to see. Asan, another one forming kind of growth leader, nice cup here. We also will be coming into earnings season, so I want you to check those earnings coming up. So that will also determine kind of what goes on my, you know, second pass and final watch list for entries. I like this setup here. Would like to see this kind of form the rest of this handle within this cup here. 1021 stacked in the proper order and start uptrending here. ASML semiconductors. So the other thing I like to look for is if there's some stocks that are setting up, then I'll go ahead and look at that sector and then I'll drill down. I'll show you how you do that. So let's take Asan, nice cup and handle. So what I'll do is I'll go back here. We can you could sort these by symbol, and then you can look at Asan. You can click on it. What's nice is it'll give you this little chart here. Okay, so you can actually kind of maybe look at some day or kind of look at some of the price action intraday, and then we can flip to the weekly. You can look at this forming a nice flag base here. And then you can go right here, and this gives you the IBD rating. So the EPS is not great, composite's not great, but the individual group strength is good. So it's top 50 groups. So this would be computer software enterprise. So then what we can do is we can go to theinvestors.com, and if you want to look for other candidates within that group, so you can press in Asan, and then we can go with what they call the stock checkup here, stock checkup report, and then that will give you other candidates within the same group. Checking some tickers here. Hold on a second. Okay. So then obviously you probably recognize most of these now, which has been a big growth leader. Apps, which is doing excellent. So you could go to the apps also, and then you could kind of see what the checkup is. So that's kind of how you can look at the group. The other thing you can do is if you have EIBD, they actually have a weekend newsletter that comes out, and you could actually go look at every stock that they have within that group. That's one of the main things that MarketSmith is nice about, that you could just click on the group and it would actually give you all of the names within that group. I don't know at the moment any other way to do that other than going to the EIBD, their newsletter on the weekend, and then you could look at everything that was in all the stocks within that group, and then you'd have to drill down with that. But I think the best option, at least if you want to use the stock screener and go look at other options within the group, well, the other thing is you can click on these tabs and it will show you which ones are the best EPS, which one is showing the best relative strength within that, and these tabs right here. So I would say that I probably would not trade any other stocks outside of what these tabs are giving you, just because it would be a lot more work, and those stocks outside these tabs may not actually be setting up. So as you can see, it will give you all the ratings that MarketSmith will. It's not as nice and organized, but you could still see what you need to see. Obviously the EPS is here, and then you can see the quarter funds increasing ownership was 6, which is great, and it gives you kind of the color coding green lights, and then you can look at the average volume. So all the information is there. It's just not as neatly ordered as it is in MarketSmith. Okay, so that's the other way to use kind of all of this stuff. So back to what we're looking at, we'll go through this quick list here. I'll flip through the IBD 50, so obviously ATKR. So I've got lines drawn on some of these, kind of what I was looking for on kind of the setups on a few of these. I just updated this list, so a lot of my lines are gone, so I'll go back through and draw those, what I'm looking for. Bill, I love the look of this. Just building a nice base here after breaking out of this previous base. Kind of had a little, this is a base, but kind of has a cup within the base. Tried to push out of this kind of pivot area, proper pivot here, but it's pulling back. As you can see, bigger volume here, but pulling back on lighter volume. So would love to see a kind of a pullback down in here to the 284.10 MA to give you a better risk reward, or if you're trading against the 21E. And then you can look for an entry there. So BLDR continues to move up after the breakout here. So this is a new one. I see a lot of people on Twitter discussing. Brand new IPO, huge volume, kind of forming this cup, and this kind of first base. Obviously 41 was supported very well, kind of this 41-42 area. So if any pullback into this area here, if you're looking for a longer term trade, yeah, I would trade at least 41-42 would probably have to be your stop area there. So BX moving back up above the 200-day. So what you can do also is within this is, if you just want the top IBD 50 names, then just make yourself a chart list with just the IBD 50 names. Again, like I said, I have a few on here that have probably fallen off, but I wanted to keep on the list just to keep an eye on. So Celsius is pulling back finally to to the 50-day. Again, that 86, 87 area has been proper support. So then what I'll do is to set my trades up after seeing the daily charts, I'll go in if you're looking for some intraday or trying to get a little bit preciser entries, I'll go down a couple time frames, maybe the 15-minute, the 30-minute, the 60-minute, and look at those depending on what type of trader you are and what your risk reward is for entries. So you can kind of fine-tune your entries. Energy's still been doing well. I think it's probably getting to a point where we might see a pullback there, kind of running into some overhead supply there. CLF, CP, so this is what I had marked last week, 43% move out of this kind of lower base move up. So if you captured any of that, that was awesome trade, a great trade. But then we managed risk into this overhead supply in the previous pivot areas as you would like to do. A 20% move, we would start to take profits, which we did on some of our positions, and then we just tried to let the trailers run with a 10E stop, which is kind of what we did, and then you also could use a 21E if you're doing tiers out. But anyway, that was a great move and a great trade there. So crowd showing some nice strength last week, good volume. So just kind of forwarding again. This is a large base and kind of another little cup downtrend line would have been a great entry in here. But again, we're getting our 10 and 21 stacked above the 50. Okay, so what we want to do is we kind of want to do the same thing over here. As you can see, once this starts to cross up, even though we had a pullback to the 50-day, the 10 and 21 become kind of stacked in the proper order and gives us a much better risk reward for trend following. Okay, so then you can manage it against one of these moving averages or even a pivot, you know, and give you the ability to trend follow this up a little bit higher and then try to move your stop up to break even as soon as possible. And that's what we try to do with our system. So Datadog, beautiful breakout volume here. So again, just kind of forming this flag. So I would look to this to pull back to the 150 area. The low of the day was 150, 124. So even like to see this form a nice flag into here where the 10 and 21 are now going to be uptrending. You can see within this kind of lower part of this base here how the 10 and 21 get much tighter and then forms this flag. You can wait. You can get in early if you're on a lower time frame, but you can also wait until this starts to move out of here. Okay, so this is kind of Oliver Kell, I think, calls this kind of a wedge pop as its price is tightening, the moving average is tightening, and then moving back up here. There's lots of terminologies for it, but you can wait until this starts to move up and then trade versus the 21E if you want. If you're a, kind of a longer term trend follower, then you could have got in here and trade it versus the 50-day, just depending on what your position size is and what your risk reward is. Hopefully that helps. So DLO is one I've really been watching. It did not move as quick as the other growth stocks did within the past 7 to 10 days. So that may be a little bit of a caution flag for me. Again, the ones that are tightening up the most when the market is pulling back, showing the highest relative strength, are what they call basketballs underwater. You've heard that terminology from a lot of the IBD Cam Slim guys. But when the market starts to turn around and move, those will be the first ones that move and start to break out, and those are the ones we want to be in. This one didn't move as quick as what I would have anticipated, but it did kind of have a double bottom here, undercut the low and reclaimed, and then we'll just watch the volume here. Again, it's a newer IPO, so it could basically what happened is it just tested back to this initial IPO base and supply, which is also, if you read the Lifecycle Trade book, which is a great book to read about IPO trading from some IBD Cam Slim people that trade. It's on Amazon. I would check that out. But this also talks about kind of how to trade this kind of pull back into this IPO base. So this definitely could still be a growth leader. I would just like to see this get back above the supply area, kind of the 60, 61, get the 10 and 21 cross back up the 50, and give us some good risk reward areas to trade against. And as you can see, the market was pulling back. All these growth stocks came under you know, the 10 and 21 came over. They couldn't get back above, so there's just no reason for us to enter these. You can rotate to other sectors, whatever, energy, financials, whatever you want. But if you're a true growth trader, then basically you're just going to wait until these start to turn back up. So DocU, it's been respecting the 200-day. This is kind of a long-term leader. I would kind of like to see this obviously start to move back up and form another base here. Dexcom, I love this stock here. Still don't like the price action the past few days, but this one doesn't move as much, and I would like to have this to higher volume. I know 400,000 is a decent amount of volume, but I like to trade stocks with a little bit higher volume. So ENPH is back on my radar. I'm jotting that one down for this week. Solar started to look better. Sedge, FSLR. I think Richard Moglen had pointed out solar started looking better. So again, it needs to get above this supply area for me, this 179 to 181. But I do like this flag that's holding. Let's see this 10 and 21 hopefully cross back up and start to be stacked in the proper order. So Evercore's nice breakout there. FANG. So all the energy stocks just had a huge run. Obviously oil was in focus. So sideways FRCH. So GLB, this one's kind of been disappointing to me. I really had high hopes for it at the moment. It's just kind of back testing the bottom of this base here, but it was on higher volume here. So really this is a no trade for me, no touch at the moment until we start to see this start to move back up and get. I like the base here. Sorry about that. I think it might have dropped out for a second there. So GNRC, I like the huge base this is putting in here. Again, just we entered on the lower trend line here. Now this was not a proper entry that I would take, but it was just holding this nice supply area and gave us kind of a flag wedge here that popped up. And I was trading it versus the 391 just kind of for a longer term trade. And we took some profits into this overhead supply. And then we'll see what happens here. I need to check the earnings date on this. But again, above this kind of 457, 458, this definitely could move out. But that's just what we're looking for. The 10 and 21 is going to cross back up and hopefully provide us a pullback to manage risk against. So those are a few of my favorite setups. Google is starting to look much better. Back above the 50-day, the 10 and 21, see if this crosses back up and kind of forms a cup type base and see if it can break out of a proper pivot there. So HubSpot, huge volume, good looking stock here, just can't push higher. But these are wider bars, so this is very hard to enter at the moment. So I like tight price action. If you read any of the IBD books, any of the Cam Slim traders, a lot of the guys on FinTwit that are trading swings, you like to have tight price action to be able to get in and just to manage your risk against. So in mode, this has been a great winner for us. We're still in it. I'll show you in our portfolio. You know, it's a little bit more volatile, but it held that 67 to 68 area really well, and then just bigger volume moving up. So I'm kind of forming this cup, nice flag. I'd like to see this flag out a little bit, maybe before earnings. IT, JPL, Jeffries, financials did very well last week. So this would be one that I would take off. Okay, so this obviously fell off the IBD 50 list, and it's under the 200-day. Just nothing looks good about this chart, so we'll just go ahead and take that one off. Lovestack's still doing good in the retail space. So what I don't like is everybody says they like high volume. I do like high volume. I like high volume when the candlestick supports it, and this is not. This is basically selling into this overhead supply area on higher volume. So this one would not even be on my radar coming into next week. So let's flip through. So Lightspeed, I like this one. I really liked it into August and September as it moved above the supply, but then just had a correction back to the base basically. So we'll see how it handles this. It definitely has good EPS, good numbers going forward. The institutional ownerships in it, but this was just a huge amount of volume on the gap down, so this is going to take a little bit of time to repair this. But if it gets back above this supply area here in the 50-day, then this definitely has a possibility to move back up into this area. So this is one that'll be on my list. It won't be on the ready list. It will probably be on a list that I'll just set some alerts for. I like MDB. I like the basis building here in the software space. So that will be on our watch list. So Melly fell off the IBD 50, I believe. But I like to keep this on watch just because it's a decent trading stock. So that's overall proxy. MNDY, I tried to trade this back around in here, I believe, and got stopped out. It was just larger kind of emotional bars. Again, it's got trying to build a base against the 200-day and some supply overhead. So we'll see what happens with it. Okay, net has just been a huge mover and winner for our portfolio. Just awesome move. Even if you didn't take anything down here, this move back above the moving averages, and then the 10-21 cross back up. You could have traded it against the 10-day, but just massive amount of volume. That's just institutional owners just falling all over themselves to get shares. Netflix forming a nice flag here versus the 10-day, so we can look for an entry versus that. Nvidia. Nice move back above the moving averages, held the demand area, tested down into the base. So, okay. Truckers have actually been looking well, Old Dominion Freight Line. So this is what I would do if this came up on my radar, ODFL. I would go here. I would punch in the ticker and then go look and see what the other candidates are within that same sector. Obviously, if they look good, so we could do stock checkup. Sorry, my son's in the background playing some video games with a friend. So then we'll go to ODFL. We could look for what is in that same group. Obviously, probably a lot. Some of these don't have a lot of volume. So Landstar, I know, is a larger one, so relative strength. So these are the ones that are showing good relative strength. SMR rating, JB Hunt, obviously one of the larger ones. So Old Dominion, JB Hunt, Landstar, and there's another one. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But obviously then you can scroll down and look and kind of see 8 quarters increasing fund ownership, which is good. No percent change in the funds owning the stocks, but that down volume is 1.3, so it's being accumulated. Obviously, the week daily looks good. That's what I also like about MarketSmith is they have these kind of thumbnail charts you can look at. So this is a great weekly looking. I know it's probably a little small for you to see on the YouTube video, but this is a great looking weekly flag forming a proper weekly base here. So that right there. 273 kind of would be where we'd look for a breakout. So you could set an alert for that on the weekly there. So actually, I'm sorry, it was a little bit higher than that. It was, let's see what that was. So it's about 303, I guess, 304. Yeah, 304. So then you go back here, and yes, you could set a alert from around 304. But what I would rather look for is this is a nice nice volume here on these moves up. What I'd rather look for is a pullback down in here, right under the proper pivot. Obviously, we want to buy within the 3% of the proper pivot is kind of what I like to do. No more than 5% out. Just because if it pulls back to the pivot, then you're down 5% on the trade. But I would love to see this flag right in here. Then also you can check earnings date on here. So earnings date is 10/27, so we only got 10 days. So the chance of me getting in this trade 10 days before earnings is probably not great unless it's just a quick kind of swing trade. So we'll kind of see what happens with earnings on that one. So then Penske actually looking decent, but that candle's not the greatest. PGNY. Proofpoint is another software. It's looking good. A little bit lower volume, but broke out last week. So that will be one to watch for a pullback. So Rent-A-Center, we're going to take that one off. Merchant S. S is another one I really like. I got stopped out back here on this trade, but it's a new IPO and it's setting up. It's good volume back above the 50-day here. So I'd like to see that stack. SE is another large name, institutional volume, so this is kind of forming a nice proper base. So what we're going to see moving into the fourth quarter is if these bases start to break out, these proper bases, not the early entries. So I'll show you on this one kind of what I would be looking at. The early entry would have been a downtrend line here. So you could early entry here versus the 10, 21 day or even the 50 day, which would have been a great long-term entry. Here, if you sized it properly, you could size down a little bit and trade versus the 50-day, and then you're up nicely on the trade, so you could actually just move your stop up to break even. But again, if we're going to see the overall growth stocks move into the fourth quarter, then these growth stocks forming these kind of proper bases will start to break out and then start trending. Okay, so this is kind of just a kind of a box base, I would say. This was kind of a base here, so that was a little bit of base breakout. Now you're kind of forming. It could be a base on base. It's all kind of interpretive on that. The one nice thing that MarketSmith does is they have pattern recognition software. So it'll give you pattern rec, so it will show you those are programmed in for the investors, sorry, the CanSlim type patterns. SITM, Snap, just a massive base that keeps forming here. I know earnings are probably coming up. Just if this starts to break out, I believe this will probably bode well for all the social media stocks. So we'll kind of see how that works. SPT, another social media stock, had a huge run, just pulled back as they normally do. If you took profits or held, whatever your style is, but this is kind of forming another base now. So we can look for an entry there. But as you can see, I'm probably only going to trade Team, just forming a nice cup here. Love the look. If this breaks out, obviously that will bode well too. Tandem pulled back, TPS. Upstart, just obviously a massive winner for us. Just depending on where you got in, just huge volume. So this candle on Friday on big volume, obviously it probably needs to rest. So a pull back down here to 346, even 350 would probably not be out of the realm of possibilities. So okay, all right, that's good for that. I'll go ahead and show our portfolio. I have a public chart list that we're running. So here's the summary for 1 week. There we go. So obviously these are the names I'm in. Obviously you can tell I'm a CanSlim trader. GLBE, I believe we were stopped out. We had taken some profits and we were stopped out on that one this week, so I have to take that one off. And docs were still in. So there you go. There's the list there. Obviously you can see that I only take names obviously from the CanSlim list and CanSlim trading. There's a few other outliers. Uber obviously. Just for kind of some reopening play, and Dash also. Let me look at that one. Dash was on my list also. So setting up nicely here. So we'd like to see a little bit more volume, but we need to check EPS on this too. So again, so that's how I use investors.com and the stock screener. I also use FinViz. You can use the stock screener on here. Alpha Charts. Has posted how he uses FinViz basically to look for IPOs, and I kind of use the same way. I'll show you here. You can click all, and then what's nice is you can do IPO date within the last year, 3 years or 5 years. So if you're into the CanSlim in, which is new merchandise, you want the newest stocks coming out that have the ability to move much higher. So like Upstart and some other ones. That will provide you with that larger return on your account. So what I like to do is I like to do within the last year, and then I'll set a few other volume filters. I'll go by price, and then I'll do some relative volume. Some average volume, so over 500, current volume over 500. I'll do market cap because I don't want too small stocks, and I'll do EPS growth. You can do over 20%, so those are going to be the ones that are growing the most, and stocks only. So that narrows it down to 34, and I think you'll probably recognize a lot of these: FIGS, DOCN, DLO, Dash, App, Airbnb, Affirm. So this gives you a nice list, and you can set some other ones. You could set it, is it above all the moving averages, and this will probably narrow it down a lot more. So that would be that they would be stacked in the proper order and uptrending. So there you go. So you only have 11 names. So, and SoFi, sorry, is another one that I'm on my list that I like the look of. So then you can sort this by volume, and you could actually just look at the top 5 names here and look at the charts. And obviously you can see most of these are doing extremely well. So if you only traded these, you could do very well with your portfolio also, or swing trading. So it just narrows it down not to take the junk, and just kind of some good stocks that have the future prospects for EPS. You could also do sales over 20%. That'll probably narrow it down even more. So then you have 7 names. So this is kind of the best of the best on that. Okay, that'll do it for me, Heartpumper77, coming to you from theclosingprint.com. We have a live stream where Cousin Vinny discusses his trades. We also have a Slack chat room with a lot of awesome traders in it, and that you could check it out if you want to. You can go and sign up here for a month. And but anyway, we will catch you on the stream the rest of the week. If you have any questions, you can send me a message on the YouTube channel or catch me on Twitter at Heartpumper77. Thanks. Have a great afternoon, traders. We will talk to you next week.